Coach, a good showing for both sides this past weekend at Fairmont State. The women picking up a very close victory, went down to the final race, 122-121 over the Falcons. The men losing in the meet, but still performing well. 7 first-place finishes for the men, 6 for the women. But a good showing for you guys, both sides, after having a few weeks off leading up to this meet.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here, Matt. It's always a pleasure to greet you on a Monday morning.
Of course.
I was really thinking about like do how much I always think about fishing when I do the Bobcast because I think about casting and then my lure will bob in the water. Does that ever cross your mind?
I'm not an avid fisher, I would say,
I think
but
this could become a fishing. I think you could
we
segue very easily into a fishing themed
I think
podcast.
what we could do is find a way to get some fishing in the department.
Yeah,
Start a fishing team here.
I don't know. Sounds a little fishy to me.
Where would we fish? It would be a little hard to fish right now.
There's actually, our kids actually do a lot of fishing. They go to Deep Creek or in any kind of ponds, or they do a little ice fishing, cut a little hole,
That would be interesting.
which is great on the lake because if the ice breaks, then our kids will just swim to
I see
the
what you
other
did
side, and they'll swim fast because I know their times from the meet. That's my really forced segue.
there. So there's a hybrid here.
That's right.
I think we're on to something.
Yeah, I think it's like a biathlon. We could do like a fish and swim.
Yeah.
Instead of a ski and shoot, you cast your lure, reel it in, and then you have to maybe you let it go and you have to race the fish
That's it.
to the other side.
That's the new practice
Yeah.
scheme now.
My effort is just make these bobcasts weirder and weirder.
No, we're just brainstorming ideas at
That's
this
right.
point.
That's right. We had a really good meet. It was it was fun. It is always great. I kind of prepped them, Friday, and I was kind of like, hey, listen, no matter what happens, this is gonna be one of the fun ones that you remember, because it's gonna be pretty close, and whether it goes our way, whether it goes another way, it's just gonna be like every race is gonna be fun. Which was our women never led until the last relay.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. We tied after the 500, and I kind of told, and it was actually Aubrey Morris had a touch out to get second, and I kind of told him, like, hey, that touch out got us into a position where we were tied. And she's like, oh, really? And then, we pretty much did the math, and I was kind of thinking that I knew the 200 AM was going to be close. And then Gabby Thompson got the touch out there, so it was really like 2 pretty big touch outs.
Yeah.
And that put us in the position that we had to go 1-3 in last relay. And I was really excited because they had some good swims. They beat us in the 200 medley, but they must have ran out of gas because it wasn't even a close race. It was like we were 1-3 by a mile, which is like. But that's I think what I've been saying the last couple of Bobcasts is that last relay on our women's side, they've gone so hard every time. And in our last 2 meets, which weren't really close, the at Salem when we were way ahead, and at Davis Nelkins where they were way ahead, so in kind of 2 different scenarios, but we still went really, really hard in last relay. I think our women are undefeated in their last relay this year, which is like awesome.
Yes.
And they pulled it off again, which is just it's fun to watch.
You mentioned one of the swimmers I just saw earlier this morning on your Instagram on social media for the swim team. 3 swimmers you named in particular as your quote-unquote swimmers of the meet.
Yeah.
Gabby Thompson was one. Andrew Creelman was another, one of the first years on the men's side, as well as Quincy Page. What did they do in this meet that stood out to you that really impressed you?
Gabby, this was her first meet back. She had a few other stuff going on, but then she just had some really big swims, which was really cool to watch. And she got up and did that last relay too, and got she did the IM, basically had the men's 100 IM the rest, and then got up and did that last relay that got third, which was pretty huge for her. On the men's side, the men's meet, it was like the meet went better as we went along. I think that we had some cobwebs to shake out in the first half. I think there's basically came down to 3 races that we either touched out or I think should have won, which was the 200 free, then the 50 free, and the 200 backstroke. Jackson Miller was involved in 2 of those. I don't want to go anything against Jackson Miller. He got a best time in the 200 backstroke by like 4 seconds. He literally went 4 seconds faster than he did Davison Elkins. Then he got a best time at Davison Elkins. Then he got touched. He lost by like 8/10. So it's hard to be like
Right.
Okay. Then his 50 free was great. Just got touched out by 5/100ths. And then Noah had a great swim too. So it's hard to really say like, oh, hey, we didn't do bad, but the Fairmount was a little bit better. I think those 3 things change. We win that meet. So that was really fun to see. But Andy Creelman, this is his first meet back as well. He was he won 3 events. 200 fly going 200 is like really, really fast. He was actually number 2 all time, tied for number 2 with Jay Gardner with a 200.91. He needs to drop about a second to get our team record, which is like he was in a dual meet, first time swimming it in like a year. That was really impressive. Yeah. And then for the 100 fly, Fairmount really lowered that up. I mean, their best swimmer is Pedro Gaspar. They threw him in the fly, which is not really his usual event. And then they had Magister, who was their best breaststroker, who he actually set the pool record in their 200 breaststroke, which is like wild. And then the guy, I think it was Tyler Virtue. They lowered up that fly. I was looking at that and I was like, ooh, oh boy. It was like, this is gonna be fun. And so like Andy getting first in the fly and taking basically their 3 best guys down was like, whoo,
yeah,
let's go. Then Quincy was I gave him some meat because I really try to reward and recognize people who like will make a change to their races, make a change to their stroke, like adapt or come back from a bad swim, which his 50 wasn't bad at all. He was a 23.7, which is like honestly pretty good for him in season. But he definitely, he had some kind of awkward walls. His hands slipping a little bit, and then, he had a strategy going in the 100. You had that 10-minute break, and then 100 free was like right up next. So he got, I think, 3rd in the 50, and then he just knew what he was doing. He wanted to really even split that 100. He did a 26 and then 27, which is not really like him. Usually he dies a little bit more. So you're making that active change, being like, hey, I want to swim this race better. Going 53, which was really, really good for him in season, and then winning it was just like, wow, this is like a standout swim. So it was exciting to watch.
And someone else you brought up a second ago was Noah Loper, who also had a top 10 all-time time over the weekend in the 200 IM, a 2:02.44 for him. He's been really impressive so far this year. Like just one of the couple first years, as you just talked about Andy Creelman a second ago in his first meet. But Noah Loper, I remember when I was on the call for the Salem meet, I want to say it was his first swim of that meet. Just flying right through, able to come in first in that. He was really impressive in that meet, and he's continued to be impressive over the last 2 meets up until through Fairmont this past weekend. Mm-hmm. What's your assessment of him so far and how he's performed so early on?
He's just such a workhorse. I feel like I always try to challenge him and throw something that he can't do. I feel bad. I feel like his win-loss record isn't that great this year. He keeps going against the top people.
He's just putting up good times. That's the thing.
In the conference. His times are awesome. Like it's really quite spectacular. He's pretty close to some of his best, and I think he's going to do really well. He's going to have to figure out, his events at conference, kind of what we really want him to do, because he can do a lot of things. He's just so versatile. He's really a classic IMer, which is something that we've needed for a long time. And now it was great for him to. Again, touching out. I mean, Pedro is good. He's top in the conference. Getting touched out by him is a pretty okay thing. Mm-hmm. And then closing out the meet on 2 wins basically for Noah. He did won the IM, and then anchoring the a relay that won. Again, kind of really the same exact thing as Gabby, having about 5 minutes rest and loading up and going again. It was just really impressive. So he's done really well for us.
I want to shift back to the women's side here real quick, and of course on the men's side with Noah Loper performing really well. On the women's side, one of your top swimmers this year has been Aubrey Morris. 2 more wins for her on Saturday. When you count in relay wins, 6 wins for her through the first 3 meets of the season. How has she been working, not really just before going into these meets? What is the kind of work ethic that she brings to the table week in and week out to allow her to have this success so far this year?
She's really an incredible athlete and human being. She was our MVP last year, junior captain this year, and she's earned it. I think that she has looked better than she ever has in the water. She's working really, really hard, and that shows. I think she was the fastest woman in the pool on that relay, and it's amazing that she's racked up some wins. A really good 200 free, which again isn't that far off what she did tapered at conference last year. I think she was a 206. She did like a 209 here. Then she's thrown down again. I think she was like 56. I think she was 56.0 in the relay last year, going 58.0 right now is like putting her in a really good position. So it's been some good leadership from her for sure.
And that leads into something I wanted to talk about too, because when we spoke last, the first time that I was talking to you on the Bobcast this year, we talked a little bit about the first years on this team and the impact that they've had, and we talked about it a little bit here before with Noah and Andy Krillman. But when you look at the veterans on both sides, Aubrey for the women and guys like Anthony Giuseppetti on the men's side, who's a very accomplished swimmer here, of course, what kind of leadership do swimmers like that provide to the new faces in this program?
Well, it's a big thing that we're talking about this last week is making sure that our captains and our veterans are teaching our underclassmen, because I think it's obviously a difficult year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, I think a lot of traditions and, things that we've done for the last couple of years that we just haven't been able to do. Flipping through my old photos, some of the memories we have is like our Halloween party, dressing up in costumes, and our Christmas party, and our Florida training trip, and all these bonding things that we haven't existed this year. So it's really hard to kind of teach the underclassmen what our values are when we don't have as much interaction with them. So really what I was telling them and meeting with our captains on Friday, and saying like, listen, we just need to kind of keep being enthusiastic, keep being positive, know that we have we have 29 practices left. That's 29 chances to get better, and every day we just gotta keep working, and you guys just need to be the example, right? You need to be the first one in, the last one out, and show them the kind of work, what it means to be a Bobcat.
3 of those first years on the women's side that I have wanted to mention: Liz Perry, Francesca Cravassera, and Summer Mastandria. Did I get that right? Mastandria? Did I get that?
I say Mastandria, but I think that's my Rochester, my high nasally northern Rochester coming up. But she's from Cleveland, so it's kind of the same thing.
I'll be up near Cleveland on Wednesday, heading to Notre Dame for basketball. But those 3 in particular have been good all season. There were 3 of the 4 swimmers on that final 400 free relay team that won the women's side that meet right at the end. What have you seen from them that allows you to have the confidence to say, hey, you 3 are going to be on this relay team, go win us this meet?
Yeah. I'll quickly add Callie Kobeja to that group, who has been really doing really, really well at breaststroke. Like she's really in a position where we need her to be, which has been great. But I think Francesca, she just works her butt off. She swam this morning. she did really well. We did a pretty tough set. She held on in a good way, and she's just been really excelling in practice. And to me, that's kind of like, um, if you want to do good at meets, you got to do good in practice. You can't. The kind of people who aren't able to do what we need them to do in practice, they're not going to get there. Meets don't magically happen, right? Like if you work hard in practice, you're going to the payoff's going to come in the meets, and Francesca just exemplifies that. She does a really good job. Liz Perry, I think, is just has a tremendous amount of talent, and really a lot of untapped potential. I mean, she never swam high school. She basically did a lot of summer league, but she is real quick, and I think she's just gonna like explode with our training here, and do really well. So it's really fun to watch her. And Summer is like she's so like wise beyond her years. She's a freshman, but she's like really mature, and she's just like put together, and she just knows what she wants to do, and she's organized, and she will keep track of practice better than me. Like she knows the intervals, and like I'll say go on the top. She's like she's like no, we're supposed to go on the 50. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Be another repeat or whatever. But she just knows where she is all the time, and she just like is really great on top of things. So you may notice that all these things are nothing to do with swimming, really. It's just like these are all just personality factors, and that is the key to success. It's having that basic foundation, and then you see it in practice, and then you see it in meets, and then you see it in races.
Season's going by quick. I mean, there was only 5 meets on the schedule with this abbreviated season you have here. 2 more meets for your team ahead of the MEC Championships. You're at Notre Dame on Sunday. When you look back at the 3 meets so far and just combine them together, what has impressed you the most so far from both of these teams?
I think just our improvement so far. We really had wanted to get in those couple meets quick, just because, quite frankly, worried about our season being canceled at any moment. Which it's hard having a meet after 11 days of training. It's real hard, and it definitely showed. It's equivalent of having to meet in like mid-September. That is early. Yeah. And I think I'm impressed with this team to kind of see results I don't think we were really happy with, but to know like, hey, listen, we're just trying to race, and we're just trying to learn, and we are learning every meet, and we're improving every meet, and we still have that drive to kind of keep getting better. And to me, sticking with everything, I mean, it's not easy. I think it's hard enough to be just like a human being every day.
Of course.
To wake up and be like, oh, I'm a human on Earth. Like, that's hard. And then, to be a college student, I think there's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of difficulty. And then to be an athlete is like a lot of more pressure on top of that. And then do all that in the middle of a pandemic. We're being tested twice a week, and there's been a lot of like last minute things, and say, hey, you need to fill this out. You need to fill out these forms immediately, or we need to change your policy because new science has come out, or whatever. It's just to be flexible and adaptable throughout all this. It's just been really impressive, and the fact that these kids have stayed and are actually still improving and actually still getting the best times is like this. We gotta sit back and realize how amazing this is.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing that I think kind of gets overlooked. Really, with any sport,
yeah.
Regardless of what sport you're playing, at the collegiate level, the things that these athletes and even the coaching staff has to go through.
Yeah.
You mentioned being flexible, adapting to everything, because things are changing by the minute, pretty much. It seems like, and it is very impressive to think that they're still able to go out there and do their job and perform the way that they expect of themselves, and that you and the rest of the coaching staff expect of them. And I think that shouldn't go unnoticed, because what they've had to endure this year is unlike anything they've experienced.
Yeah, and that's a big thing that we've tried to message. Like, listen, you can get through this. You're gonna be okay.
Oh yeah, we'll get through it.
You're gonna have a good rest of your your career and a good rest of your life. Especially the freshmen. It's like
Yeah.
I sit them down every once in a while and be like, hey, this isn't what college actually is, right? Like, usually you can actually hang out in someone else's room.
Right.
Usually you don't have to like wait for line at the dining hall 6 feet apart. This isn't actually what this experience is. So
Yeah. No, definitely some challenges, but
yeah.
both sides have looked pretty good so far. Over the first couple of meets, Notre Dame on Sunday on the road in South Euclid, Ohio. Your final road meet before you come back, March 6th, is your next home meet inside Bobcat Natatorium. Coach Bryan Christiansen, appreciate you joining us on the Bobcast as always.
Yeah, it's certainly been a catch here. Hope we can fin-ish well, and make I was trying to think of another fish pun.
You're trying to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
I appreciate the attempt.
Trying to I actually have been sitting here really thinking about fish puns. I didn't even know what
When's
you
the last
said.
time you went fishing?
Probably when I was like 12. I'm not a big fisher.
Well, that makes two of us.
Yeah.
I went in. Well, I wouldn't consider it going fishing, because fishing to me is like waking up at 5 in the morning,
Yeah.
sitting on a boat in the middle of some body of water.
Yeah,
I've never done that. That's a whole nother level.
No, we never. That's probably why I never got any bites, though.
Yeah, I got one time.
Yeah.
It was a small one.
I caught a small one like once,
Yeah.
but you gotta go in the hazy dawn.
Yes.
And fish are biting, eating crickets or whatever.
Is that what they eat?
I don't know.
Eats. Well,
worms.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's what the bait is, right?
Yeah. I guess.
I think it was crickets as
They're
bait.
just shiny. I wonder why bait works. Why does shiny? If there's any fisher, we have a lot of wildlife and fisheries majors on this team.
We
We
there
should
you go.
ask them.
I'm
About
gonna rely on you to get the answer to that.
Why does shiny feathery bait attract fish? I mean, they don't really eat shiny bugs. I don't know. Maybe they do.
They could.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not an expert on the eating habits of aquatic creatures necessarily, but
I don't know what they're eating something. This has been great.
yes, as always.
Good stuff. Sarah and Missy, I know you're doing well. I'll shout out to my fiance and our lovely cat, and go Bobcats.
Go Bobcats. Next up here on the Bobcast, we're talking acrobatics and tumbling with head coach Katie Nunley. And coach, coming off the first win in program history for your acrobatics and tumbling team at the tri-meet at Fairmont State on Saturday night. You defeated Davis and Elkins in the meet for the first win in program history. How does it feel?
It was awesome. It was great. We were humble going into the meet, and anything can happen, scoring, just random things. But we stayed humbled, and we knew we did what we knew how to do, and we did it well, and we came out on top. So it was great.
This has been sort of a trying season for your team, and you've had a couple meets postponed throughout this year. But, I mean, to kind of how challenging has this season been in the grand scheme of things, and trying to, maneuver everything, and when you consider that, how challenging it's been, how much more proud did that make you when you saw the final results come in Saturday night and saw that you had won?
I was blown away at our team event score. Considering we put it together quickly and only had a few days to practice it, I couldn't have asked them to execute it any better than they did. There were a lot of jitters. They were tired going into that, so I knew that was potentially going to play a part, but they didn't let that phase them. They went out there. They wanted it. They were like, okay, we're at our number. We have everybody back. Can we compete a team event? And I said, it's not going to be easy. But they came in, they put in the long hours of practice, and they wanted it bad enough that they made it happen. And it was not easy by any means, being, off for a few days, coming back, getting things together super quick, and then going and competing, and then coming back and having a practice, and, it kind of happening again. But the on and off, they have persevered, and they have done really well with it. So
You're able to set the tone early in the compulsory event. Two very good scores, the pyramid 9.75 and the compulsory toss a 9.9. And that's sandwiched in between some lower scores in the compulsory. It started off with a 5.65 in the first heat of the night. But what allowed your team to be able to kind of bounce back from a tough first heat, get those two solid scores, and it kind of set the tone for the rest of the night for you guys?
yeah. So funny thing about compulsory pyramid, we practice it. It's never looked that good when we've gone out there. And it looked amazing. I just told them to do what we normally do in practice. We're at another practice. It's not a meet. Just do it how you've done it in practice. And toss is our best event. Especially whenever we get to toss events specifically, but toss and compulsory, that's something that we shine in. So I knew that we were only going to get better from our previous meets. But pyramid, that's always a big question. Every team across the board has their weird things with it because it's just compulsory pyramid. It's just going to happen. But I kind of reminded them that the rest of this, we've been doing it for so long, we didn't change a whole lot. Going into acro and pyramid, we pretty much had that down pat. So I told them just to, the jitters are out. First event is over. Take it, run with it, use it to your advantage, and go out there and execute the things that we know we can do, that we've hit perfectly in practice. And just kept reminding them that this is just practice. We're here to have fun.
You brought up before a little bit the team event, and it's the first time this season that you were able to do the team event. A 91.1 score for you in that event. How impressed were you with how they were able to execute that team event, given the fact that, like you said, hadn't done it in a meet this season, and I'm not sure how much preparation time they really had going into it?
We let's see. Sunday. We put it together on Sunday. We were planning on competing on Monday, I think it was, whenever we were originally going to go against Wesleyan.
Yes, Monday.
So, it was a blessing in disguise that we didn't have that meet because we weren't supposed to compete it yet. And at this meet, having only another day or two to really get it together, I was just blown away. I was so proud at how well everything was. It takes a lot of endurance to get through that, and to be able to cheer your teammates on and let them know that they got it, like they did so well. Nothing major happened. I saw a few little things here and there, but they recovered well from it, and they next played very well. So they didn't let that affect the rest of the team event. Some things we definitely have to work on, just timing, so they know the counts. That's kind of where a lot of them kind of got sidetracked, was counts. But other than that, they did phenomenal. I was so happy. I cried. I was just ecstatic for them because I knew that they wanted it so bad, and they went and they got it. So it was good.
You defeated a D&E team, but you were also up against a Fairmont team that's among the best in the NCATA in those rankings. But right there with them in a few events, namely the toss, where they only outscored you by a little over of a tenth of a point in that toss event. But obviously you want to win, and you did get the win. But what does it mean for these girls to kind of look at how they performed stacked up against a Fairmont team that is one of the best in the NCATA and definitely a challenging opponent in this conference, and to see how well they fared against them?
I'm going to backtrack.
Yeah.
After the meet, I know the head coach there, and obviously our trainer, she knows them because she's worked there. They could not stop raving about our tosses. They were like, how do you get them so high? Like, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, I really don't know. I was like, I just told them they really need to bend and, throw them high, and the girls need to be patient as the tops, and they have really started to get comfortable with it. So I think us just drilling it and doing it so often, that's what's really got them to where they're at. They are cool, calm, and collected, I think, when we go into toss event, because they know how well they can score. It's just the little things that we work on, the steps, the catches, but it really speaks volumes to be able to go and compete up to Fairmont. And I think had we had a lot more preparation, we could have hung with a lot of the other teams in that event as well. So it's my favorite event, and it's the one that I stress less about.
Yeah.
Because I know that we will do well.
First season in the books, it was a quick one, of course, with the shortened, everything kind of being different with the pandemic, but having to kind of get all your meets here in a number of weeks. But when you kind of reflect back, I know just a couple days removed, what did you learn about your team through this season?
They thrive under pressure. I will say that. The first few, minutes of warm-ups, or even, the first few events or few heats of the meet, they usually get their jitters out there.
Yeah.
But they have really came together as a team. I will say that. Actually seeing the meet, being in their first one, showed them like the bigger picture of everything. And I've now realized who needs to warm up how many times, and who doesn't, and who is good to go, and they will execute it well whenever we step out on the mat. But we obviously need to train some more stuff, increase our start values for hopefully MEC, and just really hopefully from here on out get to practice and get everything done that we need to get done this week. But
where, you kind of touched on it a little bit there, but what's the growth? Like, where can you see this team going from here? And obviously a lot of that goes into having hopefully a more normal kind of set of circumstances to deal with, hopefully, fingers crossed, a year from now.
yeah.
But just kind of where can this team go from here? What kind of potential does your program have?
Yeah, we actually talked about this on Sunday. The girls were like, yeah, we can be really good in a few years. And I'm like, guys, no, we can be great next year.
Yeah.
Like, we can beat Fairmont next year. Like, that's where I see us being, is making it to top 2 with MEC and being able to potentially qualify for a lot for event finals for NCATA. So that's where I see this team being, because they have gone through so many ups and downs, and if they can accomplish what they've done this year in the circumstances, imagine what they can do in a normal year. So I have nothing but high expectations for them next year, and I think that we will be kind of the underdog, and people will be like, whoa, okay, they're here, they showed up, like they're ready to, take this meet. So that's what I expect out of them.
Coach, had a blast watching you and the team this year and how they performed. And again, congratulations on the first win in program history. It's definitely something to be extremely proud about. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome into the Bobcast, and I'm here with men's lacrosse head coach Steve Gartelman, coming off a overtime loss on Friday afternoon to Seton Hill, 12-11. In that hard-fought game. 2 games for you on tap, Coach, this week. You have Wheeling on Tuesday, and then Seton Hill right back at it.
That's right.
On the road on Saturday. But just a thrilling game, though in defeat on Friday, but just a very entertaining game to watch. Just want your overall thoughts from the game.
Yeah, it was exactly that. It's kind of what you want out of lacrosse games. You want the up and down. You want the challenge. You sign up for games like this, that you want to be a part of these games. You just hope that you're, fortunate enough to be enough on the winning side of these games, and it doesn't always happen that way, and it's been a long time since we've been in this environment. But as far as reacting after a loss, but the effort, the energy, the way the guys didn't quit on each other throughout the game, and a lot of the messages we've had a lot of these other Bobcasts through these other games. Now this one just kind of didn't work out the way we had it, but just awesome work from our guys. Everybody who got out there contributed in a good way, trust each other, and they really worked their butts off. And what was, a top 5 team. That's a very worthy, ranking for that team. They're an incredible program. And I think it was a loss, but it was still something where the guys can really see, a chance for them to make that statement, a chance for them to kind of show that they belong in this top 15, top 20 of Division II. And I think we did that with the way we played. And you still go back and watch, like, dang, one of these there, one of those there. There's always those moments. It's tough for a coach, for a player, whoever it might have been in the game. There's a moment where you want that moment back. But that's exactly what we wanted out of this lacrosse game, was a chance to win, and to have them come here to play number 5 in the nation and play that way, play that style, and even come back in that fourth quarter and really come back and earn that fourth quarter, that overtime, which was a lot of fun. Just great, tip of the cap to our guys for going out there and doing everything they could and giving a perfect effort.
Yeah, and really kind of what led up to that fourth quarter comeback where you ripped off 5 unanswered to tie the game was that third quarter, and obviously it was a very back and forth first half. It was you took the lead at one point, Seton Hill took it back, and it was pretty much just them scoring 2 unanswered, you coming back with 2 unanswered. But they outscored you 4-0 in the third quarter to go up 11-6. Entering that fourth quarter, what kind of changed in that third that you saw from them, or maybe it was on your side, that gave you guys a little bit of trouble and had you guys fall behind right out of halftime?
Sure. That third quarter, their offense is an exceptional challenge. They do a really good job of moving their pieces and giving us a lot to deal with in every possession. I think that ended up a little bit where you can see the first 2 goals, I think it was, that they got, and then we answered. It was 1-1, 1-1 in that first quarter. But the goals they were getting were just that in that first quarter, of really good tempo, getting a lot of space. These guys getting downhill, shooting hard shots. Looked really good as far as lacrosse sense is going. Defensively, we want to try and affect that a little bit and try and get them out of their area. That's where I think in the second quarter, late in the first and the second quarter, really settled in defensively, got a lot more contact, got a lot more slides, got a lot more of the pieces connected, because the offense moves everything around so much. It's so hard to communicate. So I thought that was where we really settled in the second quarter. They came out in the third, and I thought their offense revved it up a bit. It was kind of another way for us to, we have to kind of recalibrate, because we got to settle into that second quarter speed.
Mm-hmm.
And they took it from, 9-10 or 10-11 in that third quarter. And that's what the number 5 in the nation can do, is show how good they are, and then all of a sudden, rear up and go after it again. And we got a chance to do that in the fourth quarter, where we kind of recalibrated. But that's what I think it was, where they didn't do anything dramatically different. I just thought they really sped it up and really did what they do a hair better, and we had to kind of play a little catch-up to that, which we ended up doing, again, same kind of trajectory. But that third quarter was a run that we had to kind of get our feet back underneath us and kind of collaborate and make sure that we were up to their speed, because they came out flying in that third.
And you were able to bounce back. As mentioned, the 5 goals that you scored, and Paul Rupert tying it with just under 2 minutes left. But you watch that third quarter, the buzzer goes off, they put 15 back on the clock, and you're getting ready for the fourth quarter. And up where I am in the press box, I wasn't 100% sure if it was your huddle or if it was Seton Hill or if it was you or Coach Williams or one of the players saying it. But the one thing I could hear from down on the field was someone say, "Keep the ball hot." And that's a term I've heard you use and Coach Williams use throughout the couple games I've covered here. What was the message to your guys entering that fourth quarter as they tried to mount that comeback?
Yeah, it was a lot of those messages. We definitely used that statement a lot with how we wanted to kind of change fields on them with both the clear, which I thought their riding was doing a good job against our clear, challenging us 61 second time to get it across the midline. So we wanted to keep it hot, make sure we weren't just like staring at one side, get to the other side, try again. Same thing in the offensive side after we get that clear is they were kind of playing our hang up at X a little bit where they were okay with that guy being open at X and they would just play over the top and play the mirror game, which is fine, but that slows our offense down because it stops at X and now the ball's just sitting there.
Yeah.
So we want to try and make sure that we emphasize keep it hot, keep the ball moving. Even though you got all that space, that's kind of what they were looking for. Swing it through the backside, get reattack, swing it through, reattack, swing it through, reattack. That's kind of what we were able to do in that fourth quarter was become, the six-man unit of our offense. There's incredible lacrosse players up and down our roster that can just go out there and break down a matchup and score a goal. Our offense is best when it's 6 guys that can all do that, breaking down a matchup, using the next guy who does it, who uses the next guy who does it, who eventually gets, a 7-yard wide open shot or is on the backside open look. So that's what we ended up doing in the fourth quarter, I think, was just investing the possession more, where we kind of dodged hard, took what they gave us instead of just taking the first shot or second shot and chewed them up a little bit. And it was about kind of getting away from that hang it up at X because that seemed to slow us down in that second and third quarter a little bit.
They have a lot of weapons. Seton Hill. I mean, you would expect that with a top 5 team in the country. Their leading point scorer, Logan Maloney, had a big impact, but their leading goal scorer was Robert Hofseth, and he was held in check throughout the day, had just 1 assist on the day. What did you look at from a defensive standpoint against him in particular, or just their top guys or what allowed you to have that success against him in particular to kind of shut him down on Friday?
Sure. I think Garrett Colvin had a really good matchup out there. That's a big part of it. He played an incredible game. Dante played an incredible game. Colson Gregory played an incredible game. Jake Sprecher, in the minutes he got, giving those guys spells, played a really, really good game. Thought our Poles played great, and that's what we do down there is we kind of trust the Poles to cover certain guys, not just, hey, you cover this guy for all 4 quarters. We want our team defense to really take over, and if we get a matchup we're not crazy about, we have some help for them, earlier on. That's kind of what you saw in the third with how much movement they have. Once they got some of those matchups that we weren't crazy about, it was harder for us to get help to them because they sped up the play a little bit. But I thought our close D had played outstanding. I thought the Poles did a great job of putting pressure on guys, kind of not letting them get to the spots they wanted as easily. So I think that was a big part of it with how well those close guys did. And then once we really started sliding and helping well to our defensemen who needed it in certain areas, it was a much different game. When we were kind of holding one-on-one, you can see those guys run down alleys and crush some shots because they've got talent all across the board. 6 guys on the field that can all create and score. So we had to kind of pick and choose where we want to be aggressive, pick and choose where we wanted to make sure that we were living with some risks and not sliding off of certain things. And as the game went, you can kind of see, okay, he earned some more slides. He earned the long pole. He earned the short stick. And we evolved throughout the game, but really it was those close defensemen that kind of set the tone for our defensive guys. I was really happy with how they played.
You brought up a few of them. Garrett Colvin, the 5 cost turnovers and a ground ball on Friday. You brought up Dante York and Colson Gregory and guys like that who played well. I thought Sean Winans had a good game as well with 4 ground balls and a caused turnover. How integral are those guys that I just named, and maybe some that I may not have, into how this team can succeed and where this team can continue to build from off of this kind of game?
Sure. I think those guys are, the staple and backbone. One of the guys that we didn't mention was Matt Sharkey and Luke McCullough, our LSMs, who I thought had outstanding games. Griffin Knocker, just Mr. Automatic. He just does his job over and over and over again. Jordan Edwards played some great on-ball D, and there's 1 or 2 that got scored in his defensive moments that we didn't give him the help that he deserved. So I think he may be, a little bummed about that, but it really was great defense about how he played, and we got to get some defensive support to them. But that group is very, very, experienced. There are tons of returners and minutes on the field. And with the way that we want to get after each other at practice, and we want to compete in practice, is the defense is going to be the tone setter. Our offense is a great group of guys that compete. But if the defense isn't out there pressuring them and giving them a challenge at practice, they can just pass the ball around 6 times to get a hands-free shot. So the way that these guys, Garrett, Dante, Colson, Sharkey, Sean, Griff, all these guys we're talking about, the way they work every single day at practice is what's making us a great team, because the defense kind of sets the tone as far as the energy and the aggression and what's going on and how we have to react to it. So they're integral in our leadership, what we do every day at practice, but then also with the way we ride and the way we play defense to try and create some runouts and give our offense more opportunities. Stops are power. We have a great face-off crew that's giving extra possessions. Our ride and our 6-man defense is making stops and giving us extra possessions. So that's what's going to be. You're not going to score every time. If we can score, at a decent clip, 35, 40%, we should be pretty good. But there's going to be times when we need stops and need second chances, and that's what they got us in that fourth quarter was face-off wins, stops, rides to give us that chance to come back. So you can see in that fourth quarter the piece of the puzzle they are to make sure that we have our chances to put the ball in the net. It's absolutely going to go 100%. So everything they do at practice, into the games and everything, it's 100% them kind of stirring the pot for us, and we really appreciate what they do.
Obviously, it's well documented what your program has done since moving up to Division II. 5-0 last year, started 5-0 again this year. But this was the toughest test in terms of a ranking of a team that you have played since moving up to Division II. And obviously, you've had lots of experience in games like these, coaching a highly ranked Lake Erie team for a number of years. But though in a loss, how does a game like this show your guys that they belong at this level? And obviously, they've been ranked several times. They started the year ranked. They beat a ranked Florida Southern last year. But how do games like this encourage your guys and help them realize, hey, we belong here. We are one of the top teams at Division II?
Yeah, I think it goes a long way, even in the loss. The success we've had is outstanding, but it's the human element where you always need once in a while. We had a great season last year. Here's a new year. We had a great start to this year. Here's the second half of this year. You always kind of need that little kick in the butt, that little boat of confidence here and there. Not that we were ever rocked, but just like that solidification of our efforts are really working towards where we think they are. So I think that's what this was of like, yep, we're 5-0. We believe it. Now let's really see what we stacked up against and what we've done. So I think it was really good for them to see what we've talked about a little bit of that. We can always, give ourselves a chance to play this game, that we can score and defend with the best of them. We can win at the face-off backs. We can ride and clear. All areas of this game were really, really competitive, and in every sense of the word. The thing that we get to see now as we reflect on film is areas that we do have more control of this game that we really felt we have, because that game was an up-and-down game, incredible team that they controlled a lot of the tempo and how they played. But when we watch film, there's little areas where this little thing, there's 3 or 4 little moments that come up and add up to big results. And that's what happens in the top 5 game. And that's what happens when you're playing a conference championship game, when you're playing number 1, 5, whoever it might be in the nation. Eventually where we want to go to is the national playoffs for the NCAA and into that, hopeful competition for the national championship. It's going to be things where those little ones, kind of add up. And it's not to put like, here's where the game was won and lost. It's the culmination of all those little things kind of showing how much value those little moments have. And that's what we got to see this game, is that as competitive and talented and all those things that we are, those little mental lapses of I'm working hard, but I didn't realize my role, and then they get one off of that. Those are the things that we get to experience now. And fortunately, we don't have the NCAA out there for us this year, which I say fortunately because we kind of focus on this and not feel the burden of, did we just ruin our chance? Because you lose a game like this in the NCAA hunt, it might be, a regional loss that can hurt. So with that not being a burden, it's really good for us to now be able to reflect, recalibrate, go out there and work again. So it's a way for us to see our efforts and what we're saying and what we're doing at practice really are meaning something, really are, as truthful as they can be, and to get that vote of confidence about that we're a talented group, we're a talented team. It's not just a few guys that are good. You don't get to play that way against number 5 in the nation without a team. You could have a few good guys and, maybe play that way against, 20 or 18. But to have a team is the only way that comes through in those top 5 games. So I think that's what it was, is to show how deep we are, how connected we are, and we'll never quit on each other, which is the big part of it all, to give us the chance against absolutely anybody. So it was the solidification that what we believe is actually real, that we belong here. And, it's kind of using your phrases to answer your own question here about, that confirmation. But realistically, it's what it was, is that moment that actually happened. We've talked all the time. We want to be number one. We belong top 5. These are things that we say often to try to compete at that level often, and then be there. It was really a solidification of a statement that we're doing this right. Obviously, the guys want to win. They're emotional. They care a lot about what goes on here, and that's where it's really hard. Because it's the nature of sports is that there's a winner and a loser. But these guys really worked so hard, and that's tough for us to see. But they belong here without question, in my opinion. They work for that. It's not just because they're good. It's because they work for it.
And they'll be working again this week with Wheeling on Tuesday and right back against Seton Hill on Saturday on the road this time. What goes into preparing for this week and trying to get a couple W's?
Yeah, it's kind of good, I think, for us to have a game in between these two, for us to get out there and kind of ease the tension and not have to go directly back into that exact same environment, so we can kind of get out there, talk about the areas that we wanted to improve, that we learn on from film tonight, go out there and play it and kind of get the good vibes going again, get everybody back into that straight mindset of what we're capable of, and get that out of our mouth a little bit, not to forget it because we have to continue to learn from it, but just a way for us to get back into the forward thinking, that, get off the roller coaster of the ups and downs and start climbing up a little bit nice and slow, because then we got to have a short week to prepare for Seton Hill. Fortunately, it's not something we need to go crazy on the preparations because we've just had all those same preparations. Right. But it's a way for us to get our minds and our bodies just into that rhythm, and that flow. So I think it's really good for us to have a game to compete. It's not something that we have to it's not something we can, take lightly either. It's something we got to go out there and compete on Tuesday to go out and win a game and not look past anything to be excited for the opportunity for Seton Hill again. So I think it's a good test for us to be mentally tough. How can we focus on a game here on Tuesday when we really know the revenge tour is kind of what we're, excited about. So that's kind of where the mindset's got to be, and it's a practice of being able to compete and focus and then recharge and focus for the Seton Hill game. And it's going to be good for us to do that because that's the nature of the business when we start going to conference also is, hey, we want to be a conference championship, but we have a conference game to win here to get there. So I think it's good practice for us about where our long-term goals are for the program. Great way for us to recalibrate, go ahead and get ready to go for another really, really challenging week for us.
Coach, best of luck this week, 2 road games. And as always, thanks for joining us on the Bobcast.
Thank you for having me.
Next up here on the Bobcast, we're talking softball with head coach Bill Vasko. Coach, another good week for your team. Doubleheader sweep against Alderson Broaddus at home on Tuesday, and then split your doubleheader on the road on Friday against West Liberty. Busy week for you coming up. Home doubleheader on Wednesday against Fairmont State, and then 2 road doubleheaders this weekend at Alderson Broaddus and Notre Dame. But just 3 wins this week. All of them came on shutout victories. The 2 wins against AB and then West Liberty. You've won 9 of your last 10 after losing the first 3 to open the season. Just want your thoughts on this past week.
Obviously we're really happy to be able to take 3 out of 4. We didn't have a real good start to the game on the first game against West Liberty on Saturday, but to be able to get 3 out of 4 conference wins, definitely is something we're happy about in terms of, being able to maintain that number 1 spot in the North Division. And, the more wins we can stack up, the more separation we create between ourselves and the teams behind us. 3 shutout wins and, overall played pretty well. Like I said, a couple rough patches there, the first game against West Liberty to start. But, the team's playing well. We got good energy, and, we're still finding things that we can improve upon and keep getting better, which is, kind of the goal to be playing our best softball by the end of the season. So I know it's when you say we went out 9 out of 10 and we're looking for things that we can improve upon, it is what it is. We're in a good spot, but we're going to keep getting better and keep working hard. And I think the kids are looking forward to those challenges that lie ahead of us. And it's going to be a busy week, like you said, this week, an important week, in my opinion, to really go out, play a really good Fairmont State team on Wednesday and, 6 conference games this week. It'd be a good opportunity to see where we're at the end of the week.
And Shauna Leonard continues to really perform well in the circle. I'll get to her week as a whole in a minute, but on Tuesday, tying the program record for strikeouts in a 7-inning game with 15 strikeouts to get against Alderson Broadus in that Game 2 victory on Tuesday at Bobcat Field. What does it mean for you to watch her in just her sophomore season etch her name into the record books and tie that record?
Obviously we're really happy with how she's performing and continuing to get better. I keep saying over and over again that, we were disappointed that things were ended early last year. We really didn't get an opportunity to see how the team and individual players were going to develop. So, I think, she's kind of picked up where she left off last year and continued to get better. And, as we move along, we're facing better and better competition as we get into conference play. And she's continued to step up to the challenge and gone out there and just done her thing. And, we've been fortunate that we've given her enough support on defense and hitting-wise to pull out some close victories there. But when you have somebody going out there that's dominating the other team by racking up those strikeouts and limiting the number of batters that get on base and throwing shutouts, it gives me as a head coach and our coaching staff and the team a lot of confidence out there on the field when she's on the mound. And, I think she's going to continue to improve and develop and, gain even more confidence as we continue forward. So it's pretty exciting and really proud of what she's done so far.
It was another shutout for her in the 1-0 Game 2 victory, which I want to get to in a minute. But I just want to look at Shauna's last 4 starts, in which all of them are complete game shutouts, 28 innings pitched, no runs, 3 walks, 39 strikeouts. Season ERA is now down to .97. Is that good?
No, that's terrific. So no, it's outstanding. I know that she's been doing well. When you kind of put that all together, it really makes your eyes open up to realize how good of a stretch that she's in right now. So and obviously you look at what we've done as a team recently. I mean, she's a big credit to what we've been doing. So. And all of our pitchers have been doing a great job during this run. So, I know she's kind of been leading the charge, but all of the pitchers have been doing what we need them to do out there. And kudos to Coach Schock for getting that pitching staff doing what they're doing right now. They're really doing great and kind of, going out there and doing what they need to do to allow us to play good defense and score some timely runs to get these wins. So hopefully we can keep that rolling.
One of the most timely runs from the weekend came off the bat of Aaliyah Ramey in that Game 2 win against West Liberty, a home run in the 7th inning, the only run of that game to win it 1-0. What was that moment like for your team when they watched that ball go over the wall?
That was super exciting. I mean, we didn't play real great in the first game. We didn't hit well at all in either game, and it was just kind of in that game it was a shutout battle into the 7th inning, and I'm already kind of thinking all right, what do we got to do to scratch one out once we get to extra innings, because it's going to have to be something creative to kind of get something across. And that it kind of just came out of the blue, and I think we were all just stunned at first and then super excited and realizing, having Shauna going back out there, that it was kind of okay, we got this. So and super happy for Aaliyah, because I know that she felt like she struggled a little bit against A and B, didn't have some good at-bats when we played them, and she worked really hard throughout the rest of the week to kind of fine-tune her swing a little bit and get back to hitting the ball hard. So I know how pumped she was to be able to help the team out in that moment. So, that was a big win. I mean, to be able to come back and get the split after losing the first game was super important to kind of get back into things a little bit. And we kind of made it a priority. West Liberty was picked preseason #1 in our division, and we felt like that was an opportunity against a good team to go out there and kind of prove where we were right now. And like I said, not playing well in game one, not swinging the bat well, and having a few mistakes defensively to be able to come back, even though just scratching out one run there, but to be able to give that one run to Shauna after throwing a great game again and come away with the win is super huge for us moving forward and into this week. So, it was an awesome moment in the moment, and it's also a good momentum builder, I think, coming into this week.
This team, the times I've watched them this year, it's extremely obvious and clear that they are a very close and tight-knit group. And a lot of people, myself included, will speak to how important that is to the success of a team, being able to have that high level of team chemistry. And I don't think it's any more important in any sport more than it is in baseball or softball. So how much of this team chemistry and their close bond, how much of that is playing a role into how well they've been able to perform so far this season?
I think it plays a huge role just because, we've talked to the team several times this year about how softball and baseball, because they're similar, are sports designed to make you fail over and over again. You don't have that much success, when you talk about like batting average and, trying to hold the opposing team to a lower batting average. It's just set up that, 30 to 40% is considered really good success in a lot of areas in the sport. You're going to make errors on defense, and you're trying to be as perfect as possible, and it's just not possible. So, I think our players, they want to do well so badly that sometimes, they beat themselves up when they don't do well. But, I think they're learning that, hey, I'm going to fail. The important thing is I'm going to be able to bounce back, and my teammates are going to be there to support me. And when I don't do well, somebody else is going to do well. So that team chemistry and the bond has been super important. That somebody's stepping up when others aren't doing well, and when somebody's not doing well, they're going to be there to support them as a teammate and lift them up. So, like you said, just in our sport, the way it's set up, it's super important because you're going to have those ups and downs throughout the season. Sometimes the ups will continue for a while, and then all of a sudden the downs will be a little bit longer, and maybe the peaks and valleys will be a little quicker. So it's just a matter of, having each other to be able to be there and support each other. It's super important, and, the ladies have done a really great job of building that cohesion throughout the year, and it's super exciting to see, how they'll continue that throughout the year as they gain even more confidence as we play well.
Busy week, as I mentioned, for you. 6 conference games, Fairmont, Alderson, Broadus, and Notre Dame this week. How do you keep things rolling heading into this week?
It starts with, coming back and working hard these next 2 days in practice, improving on some of the things that we didn't do well over the weekend, and just, you look at who we're got coming up playing. They're all North Division opponents. I know Fairmont's a really good team. We've been able to watch them some on video, and that's really all we're focused on right now is playing them. But, more importantly than who the opponent is, it's just us being able to go out and do our thing, have good, solid performances on the mound by limiting base runners, making the routine plays and not making mental mistakes on defense, and just putting the ball and play hard on offense and be able to get on base, which, I feel like we haven't had quite as many runners these past 4 games, which is, a big part of what we do, getting base runners on and advancing and putting pressure on the defense. So kind of just getting back to that in practice this week and focusing on the things that we need to do well. And, I feel confident that if we can improve and fine-tune some things in practice, that the games will take care of themselves this week.
Well, Coach, congrats on the 3 wins this past week, and best of luck to you heading into the 6 games this week, and thanks for joining us as always.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Baseball is up next here on the Bobcast, and I'm here with head coach Anthony Williams, coming off a pretty good week. 4 wins for you, split against West Virginia State and Glenville State. and then a doubleheader sweep on Easter Sunday on the road at Concord, and 4-game series back at home this weekend against Alderson Broaddus. Coach, just want your takeaways from this weekend, or for the week in general, I guess.
Yeah, it was a big weekend for us. I guess it kind of goes back to Monday with West Virginia State. I guess that counts the week as well. So I guess 6 games this week. But going on the road this weekend for 4, we knew we needed to try to get out of there with 3 out of 4 at least, and we were an out away from getting 4 out of 4. It was disappointing to not have all 4. But I was definitely proud of the guys. We had a lot of guys out this weekend. We played without, our starting third baseman, shortstop, second baseman, and down a couple starting pitchers. So, but like throughout the entire year, the guys continued to battle. And I know it's cliche and coach talk, but that next man up mentality really needed to be on display this weekend. We had some guys that hardly had at bats coming into this weekend, whether freshmen or guys that are maybe sophomores, juniors that just hadn't played a lot, and we tell them to continue to prepare every day in practice like you're going to be in the lineup, and that's all they can do. And I was really proud of some of these guys coming out there, whether it's pitchers on the mound taking the ball or some of these position guys that had to fill in, and just going about their business in a professional manner and being ready for when their number was called. And it was a big boost to the team, and now we're back to 500 in the league, and got a little bit of momentum, and hopefully we can keep it rolling this weekend at home.
You had a good performance this weekend on the mound from Franco Velazquez in one of those games. 4 1/3 of 1-run ball from him, and then to end that game, Nate Vermillion coming on and getting the 7-out save without allowing a hit in his performance. He's been someone that's been very valuable for you out of the bullpen so far this year. You've been kind of using him in that closer role.
Yeah, well, I'll start with Franco. I mean, we kind of said going into the weekend with all the guys we had out, we needed somebody to step up. And Franco, a fifth-year senior, took the ball and did just that. I mean, he was outstanding. That might have been the best I've seen Franco since I've been here. He had a pretty good outing down in Cary, North Carolina last year, but he was electric from the beginning. I thought he had good stuff. He's definitely got a confident mindset on the mound too, so the guys feed off that. He brought a good positive energy out there on the mound and definitely got us off to a good start there. And as you mentioned, Nate Vermillion has kind of been our guy there at the back end of games. And as a freshman, first-year guy, I think he has 5 saves on the season already. Saved 5 of our 7 wins so far. So he's a guy that, no situation is too big for that kid. He wants the ball in those pressure situations, and that mindset's more than half the battle, and Nate definitely has that elite mindset with it.
Huge week at the plate for Bryce Jackson and getting MEC Player of the Week honors that he was named on Monday afternoon. He had 6 RBI in Game 1 on Sunday against Concord, 3 more in Game 2. Had 4 home runs on the week and hit just under 400 at 389 for the week as a whole. He seems like he's really starting to see the ball a lot better at the plate.
Bryce has been pretty consistent all year long. He's really cut down on his swings and misses. But kind of going through the week, his home runs were important ones. Going back to Monday against West Virginia State, we're down 4-3. He gets the green light from me on 3-0 and puts a good swing on it, puts the ball out of the ballpark on a 3-0 pitch, gives us the lead 5-4. We hang on to win 6-4 against State. Fast forward to Glenville, hits a big home run in that game to give us the lead. And then, 2 on Sunday against Concord. 1 put the game away late when we kind of pulled ahead. He had a big home run to put it away. And then in the second game, I think it was 3-3, he hit a big 3-run homer in the second game against Concord to put us up 6-3 and start to distance ourselves. So his home runs came at important times for us. But more so than that, just kind of proud of the leadership he's showing on our team and the way he's playing first base. I think that's definitely been overlooked because of the offensive numbers. He's been Mountain East Player of the Week twice this season because of his offensive statistics, but his defense at first base is keeping runs off the board. Our infielders, I think, would agree. Like he's definitely saved us some potential throwing errors in the infield, just picks he's made and just his play around the bag. And he works hard at it in practice. He takes pride in it. So I don't want to overlook the offensive stuff. I think it's getting a lot of attention, and rightfully so. But I definitely am proud of the way he's played defense and the way he's continued to be a leader of this team.
You spoke earlier about how having that next man up mentality going into a weekend like this where you're down a few starters, and one of the next men up, I guess you can call it, that had a good weekend was Jack Lawrence at the plate. Did very well slotting in at third base for you in the 4 games this weekend. 5 RBI, went 4 for 8 in the 2 games on Sunday. What did you see from Jack, and how pleased were you with him?
So it's hard to really put into words, but Jack is a guy that this is not an exaggeration. He prepares as hard as anybody on our team. He prepares every single day like he's going to be the starter or he's going to be in the lineup. And I can't say enough good things about Jack and his preparation because that led to the results that we saw this weekend. He didn't just go out there and have a lucky weekend. He went out there and was ready to go because of how he approaches practice, how he approaches his preparation, and he gets himself ready to go. And he's a guy that transferred in here mid-year, knew that he was going to be down on the depth chart going into the season. But as we all know, you're one injury or one COVID test or one contact trace away from being in the lineup. And in this instance, we had Roll, one of our best hitters, went down with an ankle injury. We needed somebody to fill in at third, and Jack did a great job at filling in there. He made the plays he was supposed to make. Did a good job on defense, and he had some timely hitting, and he had good at-bats. He wasn't overmatched at all. He was able to foul pitches off and give himself pitches to hit and had some pretty good timely hitting for us. And we're just really proud of the kid, and I think hopefully, he's a kid that transferred to us from Mount St. Mary's and didn't get a lot of opportunities there at the Mount, but I think it didn't really change his mindset of how he goes about things. And I think for some of the younger guys in our program, they can maybe look to Jack at maybe, hey, this is how, if I'm not playing, this is how I should be preparing and going about my business so that when my number is called, I'm going to go out there and be prepared, and maybe I can have similar to results in the way that Jack did.
Spoke earlier also about, obviously, the start from Franco Velasquez, but also I want to talk about James Stefanowicz, who had a good outing with 5 innings, 2 runs, and then also Nick Trey, who went 4 1/3, getting a start on the mound as well. That 4 1/3 allowing just 1 run. And then also another guy out of the bullpen, we talked about Vermillion earlier, but a guy who came in late, or I shouldn't say late, but in that second game against West Virginia State when the walks were kind of getting you guys into trouble early and kind of helped settle things down was Nick Botsaris. And he also had a good outing over the weekend as well, pitched the final 2 scoreless innings in one of those wins as well. When you look at the pitching as a whole from this weekend, I mean, obviously you wish things went a little differently at the end of that Glenville game that you dropped late, but what do you take away from how your staff performed as a whole this week?
Yeah, the staff was outstanding. I mean, we talked about that as a group post-game. Before I kind of dive into the staff too much, I don't want to skip over the fact, kind of going back to what we said about Jack Lawrence, we definitely had some really, really important contributions from the rest of our infield, and we already talked about Bryce. But Nick Benitez, hasn't been, he's been filling in at shortstop from time to time, but he played all 4 games at shortstop this weekend, and Chase Odell making some of his first starts. I think he had one other start going into this weekend, but played all 4 games at second base, and our entire infield did an unbelievable job. Obviously Bryce included, but 3 guys who are, maybe non-regulars in our lineup playing all 4 games, and when we needed it badly, those guys really stepped up. So I was proud of, Jack, Nick Benitez, Chase Odell, those guys stepping up and filling in some really big voids that we had in the infield. But getting back to what you asked about with the pitching staff, yeah, I mean, we weren't going to be able – we talked about this as a program. Like, we weren't going to be able to chase a bunch of runs. We weren't going to be able to get off the bad starts and be looking up at the scoreboard and trying to muster up, big innings as an offense. So we knew we were going to have to execute small ball. We had some guys that hadn't been out there a lot. So we're going to need to be gritty at the plate, get on base, make things happen. But we needed quality starts on the mound. And it begins and ends there. And all 4 guys gave us quality starts. I mean, Nick Trey was a walk-on that made the team in the fall, and he finds himself starting Game 2 of a conference doubleheader. Not something any of us envisioned back in September, but here we were. And same with James Stefanowicz. He wasn't a guy that was in the starting rotation or even thought of to be in the starting rotation going into the winter or even, when we got back in January, February. But here he is. He's been one of our most consistent guys, if not our most consistent guy all season. And I won't skip over, Caleb Smith making the start in Game 4, a fifth-year senior who, due to some injuries, got off to kind of a rocky start, is just starting to kind of find his way back and doing some of the things that we all envisioned him doing this year. So I was really proud of the starting pitching for sure, and the way that they gave us an opportunity to win games. But I think by and large, what all four of those guys did well was they commanded the baseball. They threw strikes. They went in there and they didn't walk a guy. Nick Trey hasn't walked a guy in any of his appearances this season. Stefanowicz walk numbers are low. Caleb Smith walk numbers are low. I don't remember how many Franco had on Saturday, but it wasn't many. So our starters were at least throwing strikes and trusting our defense behind them and forcing the ball in play. And I think it was a good thing for the rest of our pitching staff to see. It's not rocket science. It's a competitive mindset, and it's the ability to go out there and command multiple pitches for strikes. And the guys that did that the best are the guys having the most success. That includes a couple of the relievers that we mentioned in Nate Vermillion already, but Nick Botsaris. Nick Botsaris is another first-year guy who hasn't had a ton of opportunities, but when he has gone in there, he's thrown strikes, he's moved the ball, he's changed speeds and locations, and he's missed barrels. And that's what pitching's about, and I'm proud of Nick. He's definitely continued to gain more confidence in himself. Coaching staffs continue to have confidence grow in him and put him in situations where, hey, it's not just a mop-up role. It's maybe it's a role where, like this weekend, where we were calling on him to come in and keep the score, where it was, and keep Concord off the board, and that's exactly what he did. And unfortunately, we were able to pull ahead late, and Nick came on and closed it out and finished it up for us.
Back home this weekend at Bob Wells Field, a 4-game series. It's the first time this year you've had back-to-back doubleheaders, but playing the same team all weekend. Alderson brought us for 2 on Saturday and on Sunday. What goes into carrying these positives from this past weekend and keep the ball rolling on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, I think we talked about trying to get back to 500 as a team. We did that in the league. We're 5-5 in the league. We still have 2 South games to play, make up against West Virginia Wesleyan at some point. But right now, we look up in the standings and in the loss column, we're in second place in the North, starting North Division play this weekend. So it's going to be a battle from here on out. But I think the guys have the confidence to understand, hey, we are just as good as any team we've played. We can lose to anybody that we play, but we are good enough to go out and beat on any given day anybody that's left on our schedule. And I think the guys understand that it's going to take on these double headers. You got to play every pitch, every out. You got to play all 21 outs for every game in these 7-inning double headers. And it was nice to see us finally get that result. Sweeping that doubleheader against Concord, and that's the game that I'm hoping really pushes us forward here as we turn our attention to Alderson Broadus. So it'd be nice to be back at home. It was a lot of fun playing those 4 games against Charleston and West Virginia State here back on our home campus. It's been the first home game in quite a while at Bob Wells Field. Yeah. So it was nice to see fans in the stands again, and hopefully we can continue to do that, and socially distant, of course, and wearing masks and doing the things we need to do. But looking forward to getting back in front of the home crowd this weekend, and I know our guys enjoy being at home. So we're going to continue to keep it going here. We got a little bit of momentum, as you mentioned, getting back to 500 now, and then just got to try to do the best we can to prepare this week for Alderson Broadus and stay in the hunt.
Coach, looking forward to the 4 games this weekend. Congrats on a good weekend on the road as well, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Next up here on the Bobcast, we're talking women's lacrosse with head coach Taylor Sindall off of 2 wins this week. A road win at West Virginia Wesleyan, 24-3 the final on Wednesday, and then a 20-7 win at home against Charleston on Saturday. Home game against D&E this week on Thursday, and then you travel to Notre Dame to take on the Falcons on Sunday. So 2 wins for you this week, 2 pretty good offensive performances, I'd say, in those games as well. Just want your overall thoughts from the wins.
Yeah, I think we definitely needed that win on Wednesday to kind of bounce back from our last game against Notre Dame. We were able to get a lot of kids in, see a lot of people kind of step up in that game. And then against Charleston, I think we knew that we needed to make a statement because they played Notre Dame to a close game, and Notre Dame is our biggest rival right now. So we really are putting the pedal to the metal to these other teams to help us prepare for Sunday against Notre Dame.
17-2 halftime score in that Wesleyan game. You scored the first 9 goals unanswered in that game. Those 9 goals came in just under 11 minutes. What helped fuel the hot start in that game?
I think the girls were just fired up. I mean, after a loss, it can go one of two ways. You're either still down or you're ready to, take it to somebody else. And it was unfortunate that West Virginia Wesleyan had to be the victims of that. But I think, we had a good team talk on Monday, and kind of the energy of the whole team has changed. And I think that showed on Wednesday.
Kind of a different start to the game against Charleston. You got it going later in that first half, but halfway through the first 30 minutes, it was a 1-1 tie before you were able to kind of get things going. What changed going into that Saturday game? What was Charleston showing you that was maybe giving you a bit of trouble to start off, but then you were able to kind of get things going?
Yeah, they definitely, they have quite a few talented players. I think their biggest problem is they just don't have a lot of subs. But we knew they were going to be good. They played Notre Dame to a tight game, and we just kind of came out flat. I think after we called that first time out, it kind of revamped us, and we were ready to go. But we just weren't executing in transition and not taking care of the ball on offense. But we got it together.
Summer Cavey this past week reaching the 100-point plateau in her career. She's been someone that over the last several years since you were before you were here has really just been a leader and a strong performer for this program. Has continued that this season. Had a great week this past week in addition to getting to that milestone. What has she meant to you as her coach in just the short time that you've been able to work with her?
Summer is just one of those kids that you wish you had, 25 of. She is super competitive. She never wants to lose. And, if you need something, she'll do it. If we need a draw, Summer, you have to get this next draw. Summer, we need a goal. Like, whatever it is, she just goes out there and she puts her head down and she does it. She really is just a competitor and loves the game. And when we're playing lacrosse, that's all she's focused on. So I think, like I said, she's one of those kids. If I could have her, I wish she was a freshman so that I could have her for the next 3 years. But, and I think she really motivates her teammates. Like, I want to be like Summer. I want to be as competitive as Summer, So I think she's kind of bringing those younger kids along and showing them really like what it means to be a leader on this team and to make an impact.
And she's made an impact, of course, scoring goals, assisting on goals. She had 7 points against Wesleyan on Wednesday. 4 of those points were assists. And then she had 4 points in just the first half against Charleston on Saturday. So just making impacts in multiple aspects of the game. And one of the players that she's been able to assist on this week was Cami Schneidwin, who had a great game on Saturday with 6 points, 4 goals, which matches her career high that she set a season ago. I mean, really in the grand scheme of things, she's just a few games into her college career as a sophomore, and when you had the shortened season a year ago, she's still relatively new to collegiate lacrosse in the grand scheme of things. But she's already showing that she's an important part of this offense.
Absolutely. Cami is, again, like a very special player. She's got something that not a lot of kids have. She has great stick skills. She has a beautiful shot, and she's got good vision. And I think just from watching the teams play last year compared to this year, she has come leaps and bounds, and she really puts the work in. And, we're really lucky to have her. I think her being a lefty as well kind of sets her apart because those are kind of few and far between in lacrosse. But no, she's done a great job, and she's one of those kids where if she makes a mistake, we take her out, we tell her, she goes back in and she fixes it, and it never happens again. So, yeah, she's really coming along nicely for sure.
She's kind of part of the youth of this attack that you have. Of course, her being a sophomore, a couple first years that had great weekends. Anna Kearney had 5 points on Saturday. Aaron Bryce had 3 goals. We've seen Lily Stevens perform now into her sophomore season. It's the younger players that have seemed to kind of carry the torch on your attack this season. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the future is very bright
Yeah.
for this offense, which is awesome. And again, I mean, those two sophomores, Lily and Cammie, just from last year have developed so much. And now I think having, freshmen coming in that, are on par with them or maybe even a little bit more skilled help elevate their game, because it's not just them having to do it all the time. They have, we really have 7 threats on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that really just helps everyone be better.
Whitney Crosby in Cole. Just say her name and you instantly know. 10 saves on Saturday. 6 of them came in the second half. It seemed like she was stopping everything in that second half. It was free position shots, making consecutive saves, kind of back to back. It was the first time all season that she played all 60 minutes in a game. What gave you the confidence in her to trot her out there, give her the start, and keep her out there for the full game?
I mean, credit to Summer, my assistant. She works with the goalies, and she kind of just had a tough conversation with them after Notre Dame and was like, one of you needs to step up, and, we need someone, that we can rely on for a full 60 minutes. And, her and Whitney kind of have a interesting relationship. They kind of go at each other a little bit, but in a respectful way. But I think Whitney kind of just realized, somebody needs to do it, and it might as well be me. And she's been putting in a lot of work this past week with individuals and things like that. And we did an individual with her actually before the game. And she was like, Coach, I'm concrete. And I was like, okay, well, you better be concrete in that goal. And she was. So, I think the East Stroudsburg game was awesome for her in the beginning. She played really well. And then they just outplayed us. But I think that kind of gave her a taste of how good she could be. And I really think Saturday she really turned that corner and she is ready to go. So,
well, there's a couple more MEC matches for you this week, as mentioned. D&E on Thursday, Notre Dame. Which you said earlier, you're kind of your rivals in this conference.
Mm-hmm.
You head to play them in South Euclid on Sunday. How do you keep the ball rolling this week and get this continued success?
I think we just keep preaching to them the same things we've been saying since, we had that loss against Notre Dame, that, we're not going to win this conference if we don't do it together, and you all have to play for each other. And I think we finally put together, maybe not a full 60 minutes, but I would say 45 to 50 minutes together playing Frostburg lacrosse on Saturday. So we just got to keep, making little tweaks here and there and stay hungry.
Well, Coach, congrats on the couple wins this week, and hope you can get a few more this week with these 2 games on tap. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Next up here on the Bobcast, we're talking women's soccer with head coach Brian Parker, coming off a thrilling double overtime win over West Virginia Wesleyan 1-0 on Friday night. Game-winning goal for Audra Curtin. Another game-winning goal for her, but I mean, you go 101 minutes scoreless in this game, and then you get Mackenzie Fulch assisting Curtin on the game winner in double overtime. Take us through that moment, what that was like.
Well, it's obviously an overtime situation, so, you could say sudden death. Well, I think we prefer to use the word golden goal, I guess, in soccer. So, you're hoping something good happens on your end of the field, right? I mean, it could easily be a mistake at the other end. And so the pressure obviously is pretty significant. And I think we were doing a lot of things very well and just needed to really keep up that momentum. It was a strange setup there. They have a cool little stadium and the surface is fine, but there was a real wind advantage. It was very breezy Friday night, and it was almost directly, vertical to the field. And then they have a late day sun issue there too.
Yeah.
So you had the wind and the sun, on one end. So in the second overtime, we turned around and got that stuff at our back. And it was kind of funny how, we're like, hey, let's just get to the second overtime. Literally, balls had a little more zip on them, and it was very hard to see, vertical balls with that late sun. So it's kind of a funny advantage, and I'm glad we took care of business in the first 2 minutes there. But, we're obviously trying to spring our forwards, pretty consistently to try to get numbers up. Typically, those are the wide, our backs, spring our backs and get them forward. And so usually they're the wide backs. Fultz just felt good about a tackle she put in and had some space in front of her. and decided to just keep the ball until she got defended. And by the time she felt worried about losing the ball, she was able to slip it in to Audra's space, and she finished a nice shot. So, of course, more drama than we would like, but it's nice that when it ends your way.
We've been seeing a lot of these 1-0 wins for you. 4 wins on the year. You're now up to 4-1-1. 3 of those wins are 1-0 finals, including both the wins against West Virginia Wesleyan. But when you're in a game like this, where you get some early chances, you got Leila Clark in the 12th minute. You had a chance before halftime, but it's pretty much a stalemate for the vast majority of the game, and then boom, one quick thing, Mackenzie Fulch goes on that, or gets possession at midfield, goes on a run of about 20-25 yards, plays a nice ball for Audra, and all of a sudden that's it. How do you keep your attackers and your forwards kind of locked in and focused in a game like this, where goals obviously did not come by until the end, and some solid chances were kind of hard to come by at certain points of the game?
Well, we had a great start to the match. We really did play pretty well. I would say above the line for us, relative to where we've been this semester. So in this spring season. So we knocked it around. We had we put really good pressure on their midfield players. I think our mids had a great game. Our forwards did play well. We have a nice rotation up front, so we're keeping players fresh. It did feel kind of odd that we were kind of thinking, okay, we've got that first half, wind and sun advantage, and we actually had 3 great chances. Lexi Pay had a great chance. Hannah Thompson hit the post. So we definitely had some chances and felt like, we should have cashed in. And then, second half was much more even, and they generated some chances. They have terrific athletes. Everyone in this conference we've played so far is super stubborn defensively. No one's given us anything, And the teams that are maybe, feel like they're maybe a little outmatched athletically, they are smart. They play good tactics and kind of really have a defensive structure to their team and make it frustrating for us. I don't think there's any question we wish we were cashing in more and kind of expect to be scoring a little bit more, but sometimes it's just not going to happen for you. And again, you just have to have that persistence about you. So many forwards know. Audra Curtin knows. She's going to miss 5-6 chances and then finally cash in and change the game. And it's just nice when the reward does come, and you kind of feel like, okay, we sort of were owed that, because we really did play a pretty good game and had the better of the chances, I think.
Obviously, this is the second time you've played Wesleyan. You beat them here at Bobcat Stadium earlier in the season. Outshot them 14-1 in that game. Didn't really allow them any serious scoring opportunities. What was the difference? I remember when we talked after that game, before I get into my question, that it was a bit of a not the best start, I guess, to that game in your eyes, but that things kind of improved as the night wore on. What was different this time around against Wesleyan? What did they show that was a little bit different from the first time around, if anything?
So they're way better. That was like a preseason for them almost, that first game. So they've got themselves organized to have their players better sorted. We had the advantage of the fall, which they did not have, and I think that was very evident in the first game. The first game was just a little bit more nervousness and just athletes flying around and pressuring, and was kind of an ugly start to that game for both teams. This was a much more, I don't want to say calmer, but definitely more thoughtful sort of, quality performance from both teams, really. And they kind of know what they want to try and do, which players they want to play through. Obviously, we have some of that sorted out as well. So it was just immediately a better game right at the start. And so we didn't have that kind of 20-minute blur, so to speak, to start the game. I'm really happy with the progress our players have made. I think that freshman midfield has just been such an awesome thing to see and watch them grow and develop, and the energy that especially Caroline and Leila Clark are putting out. I spelled them in the second half for 5 minutes, and I think that was helpful. But they could have played all day, and I think that's been a difference. The veteran defenders obviously are awesome as well, and Abby and Fulch, all 4 of them have been terrific in the back. Jamie, DeTulo's playing tons of minutes now and doesn't come off. Mina is a terrific athlete, so it's a fun mix of different experience level players. But I think we've put together a pretty competitive team.
I want to talk about that back 4 because they've been very consistent this season in preventing goal-scoring opportunities for really a lot. They've been very stout playing in front of Ashley Bilger, who's another one I want to talk about in a moment. But you name the 4 right there. I mean, Adele Borello, Mackenzie Folch. You can throw in Abby Dennis, Jamie DeTulo. They've been very solid this season. What allows them to have such a high level of success that they've been having so far?
Well, now I think the experience level obviously is
Yes.
now helpful because they've played together for over a year now, and obviously we train them together all the time. They've all done everything that you would ask an athlete to do. They've take good care of themselves physically. They have good habits. They work hard in training. They're all pretty fit in terms of like reaching their maximum fitness level as individual players. Fulch has been very good in the air and cleans up a lot of aerial threats, which is awesome. I mean, Abby will do that as well. But we are able to play out of the back a bit, and we have pretty skillful center backs who are very happy to have the ball. Usually it's Abby, we've discussed as making the mazy runs and wants to keep it, and she did that a few times, but it was Fulch's turn to just see some space she liked and keep it in overtime, and it was awesome. But the part of it is continuity, but also that sometimes the ingredients just fit together, in a group like that, and I think we have that.
In terms of your netminder, Ashley Bilger, and she's been a mainstay this year in goal. It's different this year than it was last year, and I guess that's partly due to just a matter of circumstance. We have several good keepers last year. You do this year, but you've been relying on Bilger alone this year when last year was more of a revolving door due to a number of different reasons last season. What allows you to have that confidence in Ashley to trot her out there night in and night out and have confidence and trust in her?
She just brings it. She just does a lot of things really well. She trains hard. She's, pretty gracious and selfless as well. Certainly, shares the reps in training and is very positive with the other goalkeepers. It's a nice little, it doesn't feel like a team of goalkeepers, obviously, because Ashley's getting all the minutes. But those girls, those other keepers, Steph and Taylor Longworth are just so supportive and just such awesome, positive forces on the team, in training and in the games. And it's been, I think Ashley's been I assume as a first-year player, you're a little surprised by that. You're put off about how awesome the upperclassmen are. And I think that is just such I don't want to say it's a signature of our program. I'd love to say it happens every year with all the players. But we really do have a nice, chemistry in the team, and everybody is really supportive of the players that are being asked to play a lot of minutes. But if you just came and watched us train, you see she does things that not many keepers do. She's just got great range. Obviously, she's made mistakes, and no one's perfect in goal, and she's learned from those. But her voice is good. Plays with feet really well. Helps us. They didn't even want to pressure her in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like we played a ball back to Ashley Bilger, and they're basically being told just back off. So she's good enough with her feet that she doesn't. Strikers just run around in circles when they try to really high press us. So she does some things like that are just a little bit special for our level of play, and I think she's been pretty wonderful as a first year goalkeeper.
Back home this week, Davis and Elkins comes to town on Friday. Team you faced to start the season beat them 2-1 down in Elkins. So the reverse fixture this week. What's the preparation like getting ready for the Senators later this week?
So he's a smart guy. I love Declan. He'll have some different things ready. They've got a handful of super skillful players. The free kick in the first game is very much on our minds.
Yeah.
So they can do some special things, and we'll be very aware about that. Probably watch some film again today, tomorrow, to make sure we don't miss anything. Everybody knows the lineups in every sport are different week to week sometimes in this particular year. So we'll try to make sure we don't miss anything. But I expect it to be a really difficult game. Now, obviously, we need to crank up our energy and focus a bit because this is sort of mathematically a chance for us to kind of secure our place and get into the postseason, which would be an awesome opportunity, for us at home to really do that. So I was impressed with how well we traveled last week in a big game at their place. Like returning the game, the second fixture, the second set of games away are I think a little more difficult, So I'm pretty happy that we get the chance to play at home. Hopefully we get a good week of weather to really prepare. It looks good, and I think the kids are excited. It's an opportunity for us. It's a meaningful game, and they all are now.
Well, Coach, another great win, a thrilling win in overtime over the weekend, or last Friday, I should say. And best of luck to you against D&E on Friday night.
Thanks for your time.
Next up here on the Bobcast is men's soccer, and I'm here with Head coach Keith Byrnes coming off a 2-0 defeat at home against Davis and Elkins on Friday night. Back on the road this Sunday in Buckhannon against West Virginia Wesleyan. Just want to get your overall thoughts from the game on Friday night against the Senators.
We weren't happy. We don't think we did much of anything offensively to put ourselves in the game, and then defensively we weren't strong enough. Obviously we gave up a lot of shots. We didn't get off many. It wasn't a good performance, so we'll have to, we as coaches got to do a better job of preparing them, probably. So it felt like we weren't ready for some reason, although we thought practices were good leading up to it, but come game time, we just weren't switched on enough to put ourselves in a position to win the match and get the points.
It's now back-to-back shutouts after the 3 goals you scored on the road against Alderson Broaddus a couple of weeks back. What goes into the efforts to kind of reestablish the attack and getting scoring opportunities? What goes into getting those chances back for your forwards?
I mean, we try to work on getting the team up as a unit, so there's numbers around the ball so they can play off each other. We work on the decision making and receiving the first entry ball, and just trying to keep more possession as we enter the attacking third, as opposed to just beating one guy and trying to go to goal. And again, I think in practice we understand the concept, but then sometimes old habits die hard when we get into the game. So it's just repetition. We just got to keep doing it until we get it right. And clearly, it's not enough right now because the chances are few and far between. So we've got to solve some problems out there.
Outshot in that D&E game 19-2. What was, maybe schematically, what was Davis and Elkins showing you guys that was maybe causing some troubles, preventing some balls being played forward? What was the main thing in your eyes that you saw that kind of thwarted your team a little bit and gave you guys some issues?
Nothing they did. It was just they outworked us, and they were better on the ball. Good first touches, quick and clean, 1-2 touch. We had a lot of poor first touches. We lost the ball every time we entered it in the attacking third. Our passes, we didn't connect. So it comes down to just technical ability at times and a little bit of heart and hard work. And they were active, and we didn't track, and they put pressure on us, and we cracked under pressure. So schematically, I mean, it was just a standard 4-3-3. We knew how to defend it. We just didn't do it. So it just comes down to just our mentality. Overall has to be better. I mean, we're not always going to be the best team out there, but we should at least be the hardest working team, and that hasn't been the case in the last couple of games. So I mean, that's something we can control regardless of our talent level. Is just how hard we work, and we thought that's who we wanted to be this year, but we're just not. We're not seeing it. So again, I think that starts with us as coaches. We need to instill that mentality into them and get more out of them. To give those guys a chance to compete. As long as we're competing, we have a chance to win these games. But if we're not competing, then eventually the other team's talent's just going to take over.
Saw Parker Sugars get his first start of the season in goal for you guys. 9 saves for him on the night. Looked to be a good bright spot for you between the pipes. What has he shown you in practice this season that gave you the confidence to put him out there? And what did you see from him in his play on Friday night?
Well, throughout the season, he's just he puts his head down and he works hard. He knows he's been the number 2 guy, and he's got to show every day that he can compete with Joel at the number 1 spot, and just bide his time and make the most of it when he gets it. So he's done that, and it's hard as a goalkeeper to always know. No matter how hard you work, you may not get in. There's no substitutions for the keepers as much as there is for field players. So it's a different situation, and I give a lot of credit to those guys. But in the game, I think the confidence grew throughout the game. So the more he got his hands on the ball and the more saves he made, the more he knew he could do it. in the second half, I think he came up with some saves where he saved us, and we had some breakdowns and they got some scoring opportunities, and he made the one or two big saves that kind of at least at that point tried to keep us in it. And that's what we need our keepers to do. So we were pleased with his performance, and hopefully that instills a little bit more confidence in him going forward.
Obviously, just given how the game kind of went on, your back four were called into action and had to step up and have some good performances to stop some D&E attempts. Someone who caught my eye a little bit was Isaiah Dell, one of your first-year backs. Did a good job getting some strong tackles, stopping some chances. Did have one scoring chance in the second half of that game that went by the boards, but looked to me that in that night and a little bit throughout the season, he's been someone who's been pretty active in the back for you guys.
That's his strength, is being active. I mean, he's good at getting to loose balls, and he's good in the air. So I think we try to get these guys to play to their strengths, limit their weaknesses. So if his job is picking up loose balls and being a good second defender, that's where he can kind of show what he does best, I think.
So back on the road for you guys. Seems like you've been on the road a lot lately. In like the match on Friday against D&E was your first home match in over a month. But back on the road, you go to West Virginia Wesleyan. That match on Sunday afternoon. What goes into the preparation and the work this week to try and get back on track this weekend?
Same thing we've been doing all season. Just keep plugging away, try to make adjustments, looking at the film so they can see where we were poor and where we were good, and just try to really focus in on the things that could, those little improvements that could make a big difference for scoring opportunities and defending purposes, because we're still in the hunt for a playoff spot if we can win these games, because then we'll have head-to-heads against people that we're in contention with. So it's basically a playoff game. If we lose it, we're probably out in all likelihood, but if we win it, then we're still in it. So there's definitely some incentive there, but it's nice to have a whole week to prepare. So between video and just putting in the work and practice, we hope to be better prepared on Sunday.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you when you travel down to Buckhannon this Sunday and take on Wesleyan, and thanks for joining us as always.
All right, thanks for having me.
Next up here on the Bobcast, we are talking track and field, and I'm sitting down with head coach Shane Brookshire after a busy weekend for your track folks competing at WVU on Friday, West Liberty on Saturday. A couple meets in the books for you guys. Just want to get your overall thoughts on how the teams performed this week.
Yeah, I believe we did really well. This was definitely kind of a new challenge for them going back to back. Normally you don't do that too often, but we got to do that for conference because we're competing 3 straight days, and especially with traveling in between, even for that, just to get back to the hotel. So felt like this would be a great opportunity for the team to kind of experience what they may be feeling at the conference meet. So just a little bit more mental preparation. And all in all, had some solid performances. Dealt with a little bit of cold weather on Friday at West Virginia, and had a few great performances that day. But then on Saturday, really stepped it up a little bit more, and much better weather, 50s or so, and had some excellent performances that day, especially for athletes on the distance side that were kind of participating in long events on Friday and then long events again on Saturday. But all in all is well.
Start with the Mountaineer Classic at West Virginia on Friday, and the one first place finish that came from Mike Belker in the javelin. He had himself a good weekend. He also was runner-up in that meet in the discus, and that's not even talking about what his finishes that he got on Saturday as well. We'll get to that in a moment, but just what you saw from Mike on Friday and how he performed in those events.
Yeah, he definitely performed well, and he's taking on a heavy workload this year because he's doing hammer, shot, disc, and javelin almost every single meet aside from on Friday when they had hammer on Thursday. But
I mean, he's stepping up, and he's definitely a contender in the discus. I mean, currently ranked number 1 in the conference. There's a freshman from Charleston that's right behind him, and in the hammer and shot, hammer, he's ranked up towards the top of the conference too, and shot, once he gets it figured out again this year, he'll be up there too. But I mean, he's we're looking at a lot of points from Mike this year for the conference meet, and so he's taking on that heavy workload to try and bring that in for us. And so to see him go out there and just perform at a consistent rate, no matter kind of what his distance is for the day. I know he wasn't throwing as far as what he typically wanted, but just consistently being towards the top of every field is what we like to see from him.
Mike got another win in the discus on Saturday, and one of the 3 wins that the men had at West Liberty on Saturday. The 4x400 relay team picked up a win, and then Braxton Clark in the 5K performed well, getting the win in that event. Just your thoughts on those 3 events in particular and how your team performed.
Yeah, so once again, with Mike taking it again in discus, I mean, that is his number 1 event.
Yeah.
That's what he's the absolute best at. And so, I mean, every time he goes out there, he usually performs pretty well. With our men's 4x4, we still haven't ran our A team yet for that. And we're still running solid times. So I think we're 3:27 this past weekend, and they're coming off of that back-to-back day, and so they're not exactly as fresh for it as they normally would be. But I mean, this is how it's going to be at the conference meet, and so once we get our A team put together, I mean, that time will definitely drop. But it's great to see Soreko step up on the first leg of the 4x4, and he got an excellent split there and set Clay up really well for the second leg, and Mark held on strong, and then Nathaniel Messi ran away with it, and he held off the guy from Wheeling that was trying to close him down. And I said, once we get Nick Richardson back in there, it'll be an even stronger 4x4. And then Braxton Clark, I mean, doubling up 10K, 5K this weekend, and that was impressive. He's been training for this. This has been his goal all year long, all since last year, and to run a 32:20 10K the day before, which was a huge PR for him there by about minute 47, and then to come back and run a track 5K PR of 15:38. I mean, he missed his overall PR by 4 seconds, and him and Devin Horseman Guy were just really working together throughout that race. And we had a bit of a game plan with just trying to get out hard for the first 2 miles and see how things go. And I mean, they stuck to it, and it really shows how strong he is and how strong Devin is too, to kind of go back to back. And definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do with a fresh 5K in a couple weeks.
Let's shift to the women's side quickly in the at West Liberty, where both the men and the women in the entire meet placed 3rd at West Lib. Hannah Muir getting the first place finish for the women's side in the 5K, and she's been someone that in her first year has been pretty impressive so far.
Oh, definitely. It's been a pleasure to work with Hannah, and local athlete straight out of Mountain Ridge High School, and she comes in cross country, gets all conference, and then comes out to the track, and she ran that 2019 at West Liberty, and just pretty much all by herself. There was only 2 other women in the race, and she was well ahead of them. But the impressive thing was, I mean, normally I don't have athletes do back-to-back 5Ks, and I talked to her about maybe just run a hard mile or hard 2 mile, and just see how you feel for the race. And so she decided to do the whole thing, ran 2019, but the day before she ran that 1954 at the Mountaineer Classic at West Virginia, and that was a 71-second PR for her. And it's also the first time since 2015 that a female distance runner has gone under 20 minutes in the 5K, and only the 3rd time since 2011 that has happened here at Frostburg. And so she's definitely the pleasure to work with, and is going to see some phenomenal times like over the course of her career here, and it's going to help establish us as a strong distance program once we bring in more athletes on that side.
She's definitely someone that's made a quick and immediate impact here, but someone who on the men's side has been making a big-time impact over a number of years in the throws has been John Kearns, who 3 top 5 finishes for him at West Liberty, 2nd in the discus, 3rd in the shot put, 4th in the hammer. Kind of getting back into the flow of things here a little bit for John and in his final season. What did you see from John over the weekend?
John wasn't even at his best. Like, he was just dealing with just some health, just feeling a little might be like bronchitis or something like that, and but he wasn't 100% going in, and but he's always going to be a competitor, and so I mean he's taking on a lot too, in his 5th year with working in his student internship that he has, and trying to balance that with competing. And I said every time he goes out there, he wants to be at his absolute best. And I said this weekend, I mean he wasn't 100%, but he steps up for us. And when he doesn't perform at his best, he's always trying to help out his teammates perform at their best. And I mean that's what's great about John. And so I know when we get to the conference championship meet, he's going to be number 1 in hammer. That's hopefully, I mean that's where he's currently ranked at right now. So potential there to be conference champion, hopefully top 3 in the conference in the shot put. And I mean he's got his teammate Mike who's doing great in the discus, but they push each other in that event too, and they push each other in the hammer as well. So I said he's coming up on his last few meets as an athlete here at Frostburg after 5 years. It'll be sad to see him finish off his eligibility, but like I said, I've definitely enjoyed working with John in the short time that I've been here, and kind of see the impact that he has had on this program as a whole. And so he'll definitely be one of the ones that athletes are expected to live up to and stuff when they come in here on the throw side.
Back at it this weekend, another meet at West Virginia Wesleyan, this time over the weekend. What goes into the preparation to get ready for that meet?
So this meet at Wesleyan is going to be more so kind of like a down week for a lot of the athletes, because coming off of back-to-back meets this past weekend, and we've got Charleston the following weekend, which I believe is going to be one of the biggest meets of the schedule, because it's just 2 weeks out from the conference meet. So this week is going to be more so just trying to fine-tune the little things that we need to work on in every event group. And so whether it's the technical stuff, or whether it's just on the distance side, dropping down in distance and working on some speed work, and giving them a little bit of a break from the heavy workload there. Also have a couple athletes making their steeplechase debut this weekend, so that'll be exciting to see how they stack up in that. This will be our first steeple of the season, so very excited to see how a couple of these athletes handle that race. But yeah, it's just another opportunity for us to get some qualifying marks for the conference meet, and to work on the little things that we need in order to be successful come MECs.
Well, Coach, congrats on a quality weekend, and best of luck at Wesleyan over the weekend. Back at it, out on the track and in the field events, and appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.